New York City, 1904. Members of the New York Fire Department arrived to the Manhattan Adventurers Society in response to smoke coming from a chamber. The smoke is drawn back into the door frame when one of the firefighters clutches the doorknob. His hand continues to ice, and the firefighters tear down the door, revealing a room filled with dozens of frozen bodies and a phonograph playing a strange language. In the shadows, a mysterious figure holds an orb harboring an ancient evil. When the orb opens, the bodies fracture and a pair of eyeballs emerge from within. Present day, the Spenglers, Callie, Phoebe, and Trevor, along with Mr. Grooberson, have relocated to Manhattan from Somerville to become full-time Ghostbusters. They're following a ghost named the Sewer Dragon through the streets. Trevor nearly traps it before it flies out of range, but Callie sets up a drone trap that captures the ghost. But Grooberson crashes into a rack of city bikes. The family encounters Walter Peck, William Atherton, the Ghostbusters' former foe who has now become mayor of New York City. He chastises them for not only continuing their work and causing harm to the city, but also for hiring Phoebe, who is still a child. The incident also makes the headlines, casting an unfavorable light on the Ghostbusters once more. The Ghostbusters return to their headquarters, which Winston funds. Meanwhile, Trevor notices green slime from upstairs and decides to investigate a heap of junk food. He then encounters Slimer, who flies through Trevor and covers him in goo before disappearing. Phoebe was playing chess by herself in the park when one of the chess pieces began to move on its own. She is greeted by Melody, a ghost girl who died in a tenant fire, and appears with little flames. She informs Phoebe that she isn't sure in her chances of crossing over. The family arrives at a ghost research facility that Winston has also sponsored, where parabiologist Lars Pinfield has been hired. Lucky works there as well, and she reconnects with Trevor. They bring the orb, which Lars notices the other captive ghosts are drawn to. Later, the facility encounters a power surge when Lars attempts to extract the energy source from the orb. And when Lars moves to take the orb, his arm is practically frozen. The Ghostbusters receive a call, so Phoebe and Podcast go to investigate. They arrive at a diner and discover Melody is the ghost who is haunting everyone. Podcast gets ready to have her trapped, but Phoebe cannot bring herself to do it. The team goes to Nadeem's shop to learn more about the orb. A PKE meter indicates that Nadeem possesses spiritual energy. Melody visits the firehouse and continues her talk with Phoebe, who shows her around the facility and the containment unit. She becomes interested in the orb and notices a weird language emanating from it. Phoebe and Podcast accompany Ray to the New York Public Library to learn more about the orb's origins. They encounter an expert, Dr. Hubert Wartsky, who explains it to them. Centuries ago, a power-hungry king sought assistance from a strong creature known as Garraka in his conquest. But Garraka had other ideas, including using his powers to bring about a new ice age. A group known as the Fire Masters, Nadeem's forefathers, utilized their abilities to lock Garraka in the orb and take his horns, which granted him power. If Garraka is freed again, New York will feel the death chill caused by their terror. The sphere then begins to emit the same language heard before. As the crew begins to leave, a ghost stowed away with Podcast escapes from the library, prompting the three to chase it. Ray even stumbles into the original library ghost from the first film at one point and is still terrified of her. The ghost then finds its way outside and takes over the lion statue, Fortitude, outside the library. Phoebe uses her proton pack to shoot a stream and demolish it just before the cops arrive. Peck sees this as yet another cause to attack the Ghostbusters and try to get them shut down permanently. He has condemned the firehouse and repossessed its equipment. Phoebe is also arrested for refusing to comply with Peck, and Winston chastises Ray for getting her and Podcast into trouble. Melody returns to Phoebe because she craves solitude. After they chat some more, Phoebe decides to use a technique that would allow her and Melody to be on the same physical plane. She will temporarily detach her spirit from her body for 2 minutes. The operation works, and Phoebe turns into a ghost, but Melody discloses her actual intentions. She works for Garraka, who can't employ a ghost like her to open the orb. Thus, he needed a living human, Phoebe, to do it for him in exchange for assisting Melody in crossing over to be with her family. He takes over Phoebe's body to recite the spell, and the demon ghost returns to life. Phoebe's spirit returns to her body as the rest of the crew attempts to assist her. Lucky attempts to fire a proton blast at Garraka, but he freezes and breaks the stream. Callie and Grooberson assist Phoebe, while Ray, Winston, and Janine all come. They realize Garraka will strive to free the other spirits so that his death chill plan may take effect. Outside in the city, everything begins to freeze over, resulting in hundreds of lethal icicles that almost kill people. Everyone makes it to the research facility to gather equipment before Venkman and Nadeem join the fight. Ray tries to persuade Nadeem to use his Firemaster talents to attack Garraka. Meanwhile, the possessed ghost reappears and attempts to kill everyone by possessing a proton pack. But Nadeem uses his skills to redirect the explosion out the window. Lucky informs Phoebe that conventional proton blasts will not be sufficient against Garraka. He has nearly all of them encased in ice. Downstairs, Phoebe speaks with Melody, who feels sorry for her actions, but Phoebe tells her that Garraka was never going to help her cross over as he promised, and that she had the potential to do so alone all along. Phoebe confronts Garraka on her own, and her brass actually strikes him, but he still manages to overpower her. But Garraka rips open the containment unit, releasing every ghost the team has ever collected. However, the ancient Ghostbusters understand that Garraka has created an even larger containment unit, and that they can stop him if everyone works together. The Ghostbusters fire proton blasts alongside Nadeem's firebending, and Garraka is quickly brought down and dehorned once more as he becomes stuck. The ice outside begins to melt, and Melody eventually crosses after bidding farewell to Phoebe. The Ghostbusters arrive to a gathering of adoring New Yorkers, including Peck. He is about to shut them down again, but the other inhabitants force him to support them and see them as heroes because, without them, the city would be beneath 3 feet of ice. During the credits, the little Stay Puft Marshmallow Men from the previous film are seen stealing a truck from the official Stay Puft company from an unsuspecting driver.